she's talking to our old mate about the links between legislation she supports and Brendan Tarrant. And these are two fairly long clips. They're about 5 or 6 minutes each, but they're worth it. And at the end of the clip, she actually, without blatantly and obviously saying it, moves the goalposts to all of a sudden, the result of moving the goalposts actually brings into it that she admits to what Jack Tame is saying. I'll show you as we go through.
So back in 2017, a bipartisan select committee with National and Labour MPs looked at gun laws in New Zealand, and they identified what they considered to be a significant and concerning loophole. The loophole essentially allowed someone on a Category A gun licence, the most basic level gun licence, to buy a gun and then to separately buy components like a high-capacity magazine that would turn that gun into what was then known as a military-style semi-automatic or an assault rifle. After they made the recommendations to close that loophole, you lobbied the government, asking them not to change that loophole. The government took your advice. They rejected the Select Committee's recommendations. 2 years later, Brendan Tarrant took advantage of that very loophole that was identified by the Select Committee, the one that you lobbied to keep, and he killed 51 people. So why should I believe that you will keep the rest of New Zealand public safe?
Because everything that you just said there is actually wrong. Since 2012, I've been part...
It's really interesting to watch this. You have to... There is a shell game here that goes on about weapons and magazines and high-capacity magazines and weapons, and it's a little bit like there's some... No, this time we're talking about this. No, this time we're talking about this. Oh, no, this time we're talking about weapons. Oh, no, you're wrong. We're talking about magazines here. No, but the magazine can't be in the weapon. It's you know what it sounds like? It sounds like A-class lobbying. Sounds like
100%.
A-class, yeah. I know how to talk around this issue and never actually acknowledge anything. That's what it sounds like.
Part of a group that has actually been asking New Zealand Police to make sure that high-capacity magazines were not available to people with standard licences. Right up until March the 14th, 2019, I sat in a meeting where we again advocated for that to be tightened. When we talk about the 2017 inquiry, that was an inquiry into the illegal possession of firearms by criminals, and that particular loophole itself was something that we wanted to support and said needed to be tidied up, and I had been advocating for 7 years for that to be tidied up. We were told by New Zealand Police that it couldn't happen because the horse had already bolted.
Right. So you say that when you lobbied the minister at the time, that you argued to close that loophole?
Definitely.
Okay,
and
so
I have
why
been
did you release
arguing
this video?
since 2012.
Shortly after you lobbied the minister, you made a post on the Colfo Facebook page. We've got a video of it here. Here's what you had to say.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole McKee and I really, really like guns. Wanted to give you a bit of an update about a meeting that Jeff Thomas and I had with the Minister of Police, Paula Bennett, this afternoon. So just wanted to let you know that a lot of the concerns on some of those really controversial recommendations are likely to be gone. So we just can stay calm on those ones.
Now, you were 100% right on that, of course, because shortly after the minister announced that she would be rejecting the Select Committee's advice, on the Colfo Facebook page, once again, quote, the minister's
they said that very quickly. Shortly after the minister decided she would reject the advice. National Party. Anything sounds familiar there, Chewy? Reject the advice.
Absolutely. Don't need advice. Advice is just there so the lobby groups can decide what they don't want.
And whether you can or can't link lobbyists to the decision that National went with, either way, they went with it. So, okay, so what? They didn't take the advice of the lobbyist? No, they just happened to do exactly what they wanted. But again, the previous John Key national government advice rejected when it comes to guns.
Independent advisors, that's you, are pleased that the minister has rejected 12 recommendations. Their advice was to reject a couple more than the 12.
Yep, that's right.
So you lobbied the minister to maintain that loophole.
I advised the minister. So there's a difference between being a lobbyist being brought in.
See the shell game there? No. Advised. Not lobbied. So no, not lobbied, not advised. Suggested. Hang on. Chewy, thesaurus. Lobbied, advised, suggested. Challenged. Thought would be a good idea.
The time.
But be totally clear with us. Did you support the recommendation when you spoke with the minister? And to your point, the minister after receiving the select committee recommendations, sought independent advice and appointed you
Yes.
as a gun lobby spokesperson to provide that independent advice. That's what happened, right?
She did not appoint me as a gun
Independent.
lobbyist. She appointed me as an independent contractor to New Zealand
Right.
Police, delivering firearm safety education on
And
their behalf.
so when you provided the minister with that advice, did you advise the minister to scrap that recommendation?
I advised the minister that they needed to put high capacity magazines.
That's not the question.
onto-
Sorry, the question is, did you advise the minister to reject that recommendation?
No. There was no recommendation specifically around high capacity magazines.
No. Oh, you've read the select committee report. I'll read you the recommendation. Quote, we recommend to the government that the police investigate the creation of a category of restricted semi-automatic firearm to replace the MSSA firearm endorsement category.
Okay, that's not high capacity magazines though, Jack, and I think that's where the confusion is. So we
It's not-
already have...
So again, I've got the select committee report here. So they talk about, here in particular, the way MSSAs are currently classified raises 3 grounds for concern. First ground for concern, A category firearms can be converted to MSSAs by people purchasing high capacity magazines
Yes.
and using them on their category A firearm. So very clearly, they came with that recommendation. We recommend to the government the police investigate the creation of a category of restricted semi-automatic firearm. If that category had been created, do you accept that Brenton Tarrant might not have been able to access the guns he used on March 15th?
Brenton Tarrant would have been able to access the firearms. Brenton Tarrant should not have been able to access the high capacity magazine. And I will go back to the 7 years of advocacy on the magazines themselves. That recommendation is about the firearms. We're talking
No,
about
it's
the
not.
magazines.
So under that recommendation, just going, I've got all the paperwork
And read
here.
the
Select committee
recommendation
options.
again.
So this is the bit where there's a slight, she changes the goalposts here, and in changing the goalposts, even though she doesn't say it, she acknowledges that Jack's right. You have a listen. This has only got 30 seconds to go.
Talking about
it's
the
not.
magazines.
So under that recommendation, just going, I've got all the paperwork
And read
here.
the
Select committee
recommendation
options.
again.
Okay, restricting all firearms with detachable magazines.
Restricting all firearms with detachable magazines.
one of the
That's not
recommendations.
about the magazines themselves.
It's
There's
restricting all
a
firearms
difference there.
with detachable magazines.
And it's how do you go about doing that? Because the majority of firearms in New
Well,
Zealand
we've done
have,
it since March
restricted,
19th, right? We've said you actually you're not able to purchase those high capacity
and we're in a bit of a
magazines.
mess in the way that they've gone about doing it, Jack.
There you go. Goalpost shift. So yes, Jack just said we've done it, and she said yes, we have done it, but there's been a mess up. In other words, what I was just saying you couldn't do, we've done. Goalpost shift, and isn't it terrible?
It is absolutely standard to what the NRA and their lobbyists have done in the US. Is they won't make common sense rules around these because they will focus on, say, the pistol grips, right? So,
Yeah.
so when you see like there's a weird little strap of material that joins the buttstock to the pistol grip, so it's a single piece. It's not a pistol grip at that point. The gun lobby is and the gun manufacturers are excellent at adapting their products to changes in the law. And the best way for them to be able to do that is when the lobbyists come in and they start fiddling around what is a pistol grip, what is a collapsible stock, what is a high capacity magazine. And they'll quibble and they'll move those pieces around, and it just muddies the water over what's happening. And then you get the gun lobby or the gun manufacturers adapting their products to fit that. The one thing that they can't adapt their products for is something that is a lot more open, like let's just, okay, so magazines are the problem. Let's ban all weapons with a detachable magazine.
Yeah.
I think the vast majority of gun owners and the vast majority of the non-gun owning public can understand that. That's easy to enforce. Who has a problem with it? The gun sellers, the gun manufacturers, because they know how open that is, how clear that is to understand, and how effective that would be.
Yeah. All right, we'll keep trucking because there's another bit here. And as I said, I think that listening to Nicole McKee, to me, it feels like it's more important than Simeon. Simeon's important, but this is literal life and death on some of it. That's how it feels to me. So this second part, she's challenged about excluding the police from the communication. Remember how we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, how that she wanted the police suggestion or police association suggestion stricken off the record sort of thing. And she's going to go and play the game. Oh, I just didn't understand the system. I've learned whatever. And also a very good bit about gun registry and the huge hole in the gun registry conversation, which is if you're worried about it being a steal to order thing, why are you happy with having any registry at all? Because that would surely still be a steal to order list. And it's just like, oh, it's great. Jack does great here. Let's have a listen.
You excluded the police association from the first part of consultation on that first little sliver of gun reforms because you said that advice of police was sufficient. But documents obtained by One News this week showed you tried to have those police comments removed from the public record. So given gun laws are absolutely integral to police safety, why should police trust a former gun lobbyist who won't involve the police association and who tried to delete the official advice from police that she didn't like from the public record?
Mm-hmm.
One of the great things that I found about being a cabinet minister is learning the processes and how it all works. I presented a paper to cabinet and the police came in with their...
Could you imagine if a Labour MP made some kind of what on the outside appears like, I mean, almost corruption, let's just say it appears like that, and then they came back to the media and they said, oh, you know, I'm a minister, and as a minister I need to learn the system, and as I'm learning the system I found out how to do it. Can you imagine what Luxon and his mates would be saying about that person? What you this is not an on-the-job training kind of thing, mate. This is the highest positions in the land. This is not an on-the-training job. If you are not skilled to be there, if you don't know the system, you should not be there. And so just to let this kind of go and go, oh, you know, she made a mistake and she's learning. It's like, it's ridiculous. It's utterly, utterly ridiculous.
Fulsome advice, and they went against what I said. I asked the question, are they allowed to put that, this is my paper, are they allowed to put that in there? Does it have to be in there? And the response that I got back was, yes, they're allowed to put that in there, Minister, but you can also have your own say. You can talk back to what they say, and I've done that. So it's about learning the process. What I'm really grateful for is that New Zealand Police have actually been really robust in what they feed back to me. There's about 17 different groups and organisations, and New Zealand Police have been able to give me more feedback than all of them put together, and I value that because they represent every single person within the New Zealand Police.
What's wrong with the gun registry?
The firearms registry itself, I'm actually quite keen on, believe it or not. We've had a
Why did you
registry.
campaign?
Not. I go with not. What about you, Chewy? Believe it or not, I'm going with not.
Yeah, I wonder what little rat hole she's got in this argument.
Yeah, this is a good one. Watch for the shell game.
Against it last year.
Well, I campaigned against a full firearms registry. We've had a registry in place since the 1980s and the 1990s, and I've been a part of that. What I don't agree with is the full registration of firearms, because we've got so many people out there that are concerned about putting their details into a system that they don't trust the security.
So, okay, so you're worried about it becoming a steal to order kind of list or something like that, right?
It can be, yes.
So to be totally clear, though, ACT opposes a firearms registry for all guns, but ACT supports a firearms registry for restricted weapons.
Restricted weapons, pistols, collector items, as we've had over the...
So the kinds of firearms that gangs would be most attractive to, handguns and expensive weapons. So the kind of guns that the gangs would be most attractive to, they support a registry for those, but for everyone, no. So Farmer Bob out in Southland with a shotgun, no. You know, such and such person living in central Wellington who collects handguns, yes. And now she's trying to sell it is because they're scared of it being a steal to order if they go with everyone. This is the beautiful thing that Jack pulls out.
So her mentioning pistols, I can tell you for a fact is a bunch of bullshit. To be a pistol owner in New Zealand is some of the most restrictive firearms legislations we've got, and the fact that you have to be a member of a pistol club and your weapon stays there. Right. Or is handed to the police. You can't just keep it at home. So that's bullshit. But you know, she's missing out the fact that the vast majority of gang firearms offences are like what you mentioned. Farmer Brown's forgotten shotgun cut down. Farmer Brown's old 303. That has been cut down. You know, it's all firearms. And why would you want to complicate something like this? Like
100%. They do get onto that as well. They get onto you know, how gangs get these weapons. We'll keep going, eh? Is that right?
Yep.
For restricted weapons.
Restricted weapons, pistols, collector items, as we've had over the last 40 years.
Oh, hang on a second. So if you're so concerned about it being a steel to water list, why would you support having a registry for our most dangerous guns?
Because those most dangerous firearms that you talk about actually are under a higher security requirement. And that means...
You mean in houses?
In houses. They actually have a higher
But
security
the concern is with the
requirement.
registry. Yeah, I understand that. But the concern is with the registry.
Yes, yes.
So
If
you
we
just
have a
said that
look
the
at the-
registry can't be trusted, potentially can't be trusted because of security concerns, but you do support having a registry for our most dangerous guns.
I do support having a registry for our most dangerous firearms. I think that's really important, but I'll take a step back here with you as well.
But I know
We look at the A category.
But the concern is around the security of a registry. I mean, if the
Well, that's
security,
one of the concerns, Jack.
that's
It's not the
concern
only
that's a
concern,
concern you just identified to me.
but it's one, and I can identify some others.
What are the others?
$350 million has already been spent on firearms control by the Labor government
How much has been spent on the registry?
Over $200 million has been put aside for spending on the
How much has been
registry.
spent on the registry
Put
so far?
aside.
I'm not aware of how much has been spent, but $208
hang on,
million has
No,
been
I've
put
checked it
aside
out.
in
It's
tagged
public information.
contingency.
So it's cost $10 million to establish
To
the
date.
firearms registry, and this is from the.
Sorry. Over 350 million has been spent. Jack, 10 million has been spent. Here's the information.
Authority. We estimate it'll cost $8.5 million per annum to continue operating.
And
Seems like good value for money, really.
no, I don't think it is. I don't think it is because it's not going to stop there.
But it's not $200 million.
I don't think it is because it doesn't work with my narrative. I don't think it's good value for money because it doesn't work with
Stop
what I'm going to do.
Seems like good value for money, really.
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is because it's not going to stop there.
But it's not $200 million. Like
It's
you just claimed.
$350 million has been spent on arms control.
But this is
at
on the
moment.
registry. This is on the registry. Does that include the gun
Can I
buyback?
give you some stats?
No. I've just asked you for stats. You've just
Well, no,
said
you
that the
haven't asked
registry
me
is going to
for
cost
stats.
$200 million.
You haven't asked me for stats.
It's
Let's have a look at
10.4 and 8.5
whether or
a year.
not a registry is going to work in New Zealand. And this is why we're having a review, because yes, you could ask me all these questions, but the point is have a
And
review.
then I might have to answer them. Come on, Jack. You could ask me all these questions. And then what am I supposed to do? Answer them? I mean, come on.
And this is why we're having a review, because yes, you could ask me all these questions, but the point is have a review. What's happened overseas? Canada said that they were going to spend $2 million. They spent $2 billion before they got rid of it.
But in New
When we
Zealand,
have
we've
a look
spent
at the-
$10 million.
when we have a look
I
at
actually
the
checked with police.
firearms-
No, because you care about stats. I checked with police. They said it came in under budget and on time, which is about the first time that's ever happened with a public project of this
There's more to
scale.
be done in that space, Jack. It's not over. They have
This is another thing that they're doing. They're basically saying this is not going to work, so we don't want to do anything. It's like it's if someone says to you that if this is not going to get the absolute best case scenario, this is going to be the gold standard the world has seen, then we should do nothing. This is the other argument that's starting to come out. If you don't get it to absolutely solve every single issue, then you should spend no money on it whatsoever, which is the argument that comes out next, Joey.
implemented a system, which is the start of a system. The system is not completed, it's not finished,
But you're
and
reviewing
it's
it
going
already.
to be more than $20 million. Well, we've already got a registry system in place at the moment. We've had 6 breaches of data since 2019. And here's another good fact for you, actually, Jack. In the A category, or the sporting firearms that are now to be registered, police will tell us that 70% of firearms that they find seized are actually A category type firearms. And this is why we need a registry. But they will also say that 65% of the firearms that they find have no serial number on them. Now, if we're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars to be spent, and
This is so stupid. This is so stupid. But they had a serial number on them, and under a registry, that serial number will be lodged with Farmer Bob. And if they then find that 2 years later that gun's out and about and it's got no serial number on it, at the stage that they want to check in with Farmer Bob with where it had a serial number on it and he doesn't have it anymore, then there's questions to answer. So it's like, what does it matter that it now doesn't have any serial numbers on it? We know that Farmer Bob had it with a serial number on it, and if he no longer has it, then Farmer Bob's answerable to that if he hasn't declared or reported to the police it's been stolen. So this is actually a complete red herring she's putting out right now.
they find have no serial number on them. Now, if we're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars to be spent, and it will be coming, it's not finished yet, on the registry,
But
is it going
down
to
on
be,
store buyers, right?
is it
I
going
mean,
to be the ambulance at the
So
bottom
you
of
say
the
it's going to
hill?
cost us hundreds of millions of dollars. The official line is that it's cost us 10.4
To
and
date.
8.5 a year.
To date.
So I mean, the whole point with the registry is it cuts down on straw buyers, so-called straw buyers or diversions of guns, right? So people who legally buy a firearm and then on-sell it. And the idea with the registry is that actually all of the details when you on-sell it will have to be recorded. That person will have to show their face. For example, what if police told you is the biggest contributor to gun crime? Is it straw buying or diverting, like I've just described, or is it something else?
Police have advised me that it's the straw buyers.
Right.
But what we've found is that when they
Right.
talked about the types of firearms that they've seized, it's only 6% of those firearms can be attributed to straw buying. So it leaves open what's happening with the other 94%.
What's the 6% based on?
The 6% came from an OIA about how many how many firearms have been diverted
Is that a set from 2015?
Rot roll, minister. If you don't know your numbers, coming to see Uncle Jack. Rot roll.
It's a step that
So
I've been
3 years
provided
ago, the police established the firearms investigation team to look at illegal gun supply. Detective Senior Sergeant Mike Beale, who was of the team, told the Herald this, quote, "There are lots of rumours around where gangs get their guns from, importing them in bulk by sea, manufacturing them, burglaries and so on. But the vast majority of what we're seeing so far is retail diversion. The criminal element doesn't need to look any further, importing, for example, because diversion is such a simple option. That's why we have the registry."
Well, we've had a registry for the dealers since the 1990s as well.
This is not about dealers. You
Well,
understand
no,
that.
you just said it's been diverted from the straw buyer. So
from someone who buys it legally, right? And then
which
without
is
a
usually
registry,
through the dealer.
and without a registry, what can that person do?
And you do realise
Did they
that the
have to-
dealer registry is not up and running under this new regime. They're still using the old regime.
So this is it's not working well enough, so it's not working. This is exactly the same thing. It's not, but they're not doing that yet, so we might as well not do anything.
For the last 20 years.
You understand how straw buyers work? And actually, we've had
And it would be
plenty of
great when we
examples
can
recently.
digitalise that information, because I'm all for the dealer registry being digitalised, but it's not there yet, and the money hasn't been spent on that yet.
So investigations suggest that Matu Reid, who was the downtown Auckland shooter, he had a gun legally bought from a retailer, then diverted. Police looking into the Ponsonby Road shooting found 2 of those Alpha carbine cut-off guns in Lake Taupo. Constable Matthew Hunt was shot by someone using an AK-style semi-automatic weapon that had been legally purchased and then on-sold with the buyer's details not recorded. Can you give me a recent example of smuggled guns or different guns being used to murder police officers?
What I can tell you is that we have one X-ray machine for all of
This will be a no, Jack. This will be a no. She can't.
the ports in New Zealand, and we have about 148 containers coming in every single day. We are not
That's not what I asked, though, is it?
But we're not able to look at what is actually coming into the country. So it's easy for people to say they're not coming in.
We're just taking it from police who are falling victim to these crimes.
There you go. So yes, the lad does come with receipts once again, Chewy. It's and I don't know if you picked it up at the end when she talked about that 6%. They were talking over each other, but she said it was a stat I was given. Okay, so from where? A stat I was given. So there you go. Chewy, yours, sir.
This is what happens when we get a lobbyist into a lawmaking position. It's an absolute shit show. There is no consideration being given to how workable something is. There is no consideration being given to how it would improve things in this country. There is no consideration being given to something like the mosque shootings. The problem that she is trying to solve is the people that have paid her very well for many, many years are expecting a return on their investment.
Yep.
Now, she might say, hey, look, I was a lobbyist then. I'm not a lobbyist now. What? She suddenly deletes her contacts, changes her phone number, her email address, doesn't hang out with the old crew anymore. Get fucked. This is just corruption. For her to turn her back on these things that have been recommended since Aramoana happened. Like, this is when there was a big review done in the 90s, almost all of that was disregarded, minimized, and chipped away. And we thought, that's fine. How often does an Aramoana happen?
Yeah.
How often does a Christchurch mosque shooting happen? You know, there are things like, as you quite rightly said, she will use a failing as a reason to completely wipe out doing anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, people are concerned about a registry because there's been some privacy breaches around it. Yes, there have been. So maybe the police aren't the best people to keep track of the registry. Maybe there should be another organization. Maybe it should be digitized maybe there should be digital fingerprints for anybody that accesses it. We have solved privacy issues on large databases before. We have a huge database of things that are registered to people. You know, you register a car. Okay, we have less guns than we have cars. So let's make a smaller, more secure, more digitized database. The reason that she keeps referring to the fact that we had a registry process in hand, it was pen and paper. And it just got too hard to manage, and everybody just kind of wandered away from it. So the money that she's so concerned about with spending is to bring that into this century. And I think when it comes to something of like, okay, we have these weapons that, yes, they can be tools, but they can also be weapons that can be misused for crime or terrorism or whatever. Is that worth keeping a bigger eye on? Do we have some of our large gun retailers here in New Zealand absolutely taking the piss? And I know that these guys are dancing around the name of the business, but Gun City just this month got pinged for one of their employees committing fraud that put those alpha carbines out into the communities. If you haven't seen one of these things, it's a 357 Magnum made to look like a rifle. It has a rifle's buttstock and it has a long barrel. 2 cuts with a fucking hacksaw, and you have a concealable pistol. And that's what these shootings in Auckland have all been. And the only place that's selling them is Gun City. Gun City is run by a guy that got charged for gun running. He's been charged for breaking the law, speeding. His son's a domestic violence offender. He is not a fit and proper person to have a gun license, let alone someone that retails these weapons. There is not a serious gun owner in this country that would look at that and go, that's a good tool for a task. That is a crime gun, like right from the fucking get-go.
So
a half hour
they cut just there, and they cut just there.
Yeah, that is a take the piss gun. And this is exactly what I mean about the arms industry, knowing what they have to do to amend a gun to fall into a different category or to get around a new piece of legislation. So you need to make your rules to work with that. Like, they've been doing this in America for decades. They are very, very good at it. You know, change out the upper receiver and you have an automatic weapon rather than a semi-automatic weapon.
So that's what it looks like cut down.
Yeah. So, yes, McKee is not trying to solve this problem. There's a reason she's disregarding police, because police have a different set of problems that they are trying to solve. I acknowledge that there may be some concern in the gun community about the security of any register. And that question needs to be answered.
But that's fixed. That's fix the security, not do a register. I mean, we've got IRD numbers. That's online and it's secure. We've got bank account numbers. That's online and it's secure. You know, like, get over yourself. If there's a problem if there's a concern around the security around the gun registry, then fix the gun registry security. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's what we're talking about.
Absolutely.